What I've tried to do here in a few slides is take you through some of the first principles as they relate to product market fit, which is a very important phrase and a concept, especially for entrepreneurs. I'll be walking you through some of these concepts with some tangible examples, as well as templates that you can use as you start to map out your journey towards a product market fit. And I'd like to start out with what's called the theory of the firm, which is a very famous microeconomics concept. And it states that companies of all kinds, startups, big firms, exist to maximize profits, which is one of their primary goals, to be able to sustain their operations, grow their customers, and provide value to their stakeholders. The nature and reason for their being is to create a gap between revenue and cost, which is by definition a profit. And all the decisions they make when they are operating their company is about choosing their first customers. Very, very important decision for a startup and an entrepreneur. How to grow their customer base, how they allocate resources within the company to build that product, how they price it, how they support and organize production, all serves to that central purpose of maximizing profits, which is the theory of the firm. The product market fit concept and the thinking and the framework behind that is something that is a very critical milestone for entrepreneurs to get to maximize revenues and profits. And that's why I wanted to provide that concept. It was termed by a famous Silicon investor named Mark Andreesen, who you may have heard of. There's lots of explanations and frameworks if you surf the web on what that means, and tools that you can use to reach a product market fit. But most importantly, it's that one moment in a startup journey to open up a gateway to revenue growth. If we go to the next slide, another one of first principles that I want to talk to you about is it relates to how you think about what a product means, what it's trying to do, and how it creates value for your customers. This is a principle and a theory that was popularized and originated from a very famous professor named Clay Christensen. And essentially, this principle teaches you that understanding not only the functional part of what you're trying to get done, i.e. a customer, is very important, but understanding the psychological components behind the job to be done by the customer is fundamental to developing markets and products. And I wanted to cite a very famous quote by a marketing professor named Theodore Lewitt, and you can probably relate to this, is customers hardly buy what you think they're buying. And to illustrate that, people don't want to buy a 1/4-inch drill, they want a 1/4-inch hole. So getting to really understand through the process of customer discovery, what is the outcome or the job to be done that the customer is trying to get done is a very important part of reaching to that product market fit. And to, again, bring it home, I wanted to cite a few examples of companies that do this especially well. Think about the company Thermos. It's not just a flask that carries drink, but it has delivered the promise of keeping your drinks hot without fail for 5 to 7 hours, as their brand promises, over the years. And when I am trying to pack lunch for my son or my daughter, there's no other company in the world that meets that promise better than Thermos. And same can apply, when you think about companies like Wall Street Journal, who targets very, very specific readers for business news, or a company like Tylenol. And I wanted to offer those examples so you start thinking about this idea of what is the job to be done by the customer. Another critical understanding of a product market fit applies to this diagram. I wanted to show you a Venn diagram on what are the 3 requirements to reach a product market fit. And those are not only the great product that we talked about, a great customer, but also the willingness to pay. So it's not enough to identify through a process of segmentation the right group of customers your target, but making sure that they are planning to or willing to buy your product for an appropriate price. So entrepreneurs achieve product market fit when all those 3 requirements are met. Another very important aspect of product market fit is that it's largely thought about as a destination or a milestone, but it's very important to remember that is a journey of discovering and continuous improvement. And there are some critical factors that you have to be mindful of or internalize as you build your organization, train your team on how to understand the customer. And there's a couple things I want to point out. This graphic essentially illustrates that it's a journey of continuous improvement, learning and feeding that customer insight back into your product design and development. But let me go through some of these points first before we get to the graphic. I think the discovery mindset comes with some attributes for you as an entrepreneur, which is observation. When you're at a customer site or a field or in the market, it's very important to be open-minded and be empathetic listener, asking the right questions through very systematically designed voice of customer surveys. So you are understanding those multiple dimensions that I talked about earlier of what are the functional aspects, what are the social or emotional aspects of a customer's problem that he's trying to solve for. It's also very important, especially for entrepreneurs, to get the first definition of the problem generally right versus spending months and years on perfecting the product. Because as you know, for startups, market timing is paramount, in getting to a minimal viable product sooner than later is more important than getting to utopia. The one other critical aspect of product development is smart experiments and investing in the methodology of how you design not only product development experiments, but also market experiments is very critical to getting to product market fit. And as importantly, choosing your right customer that's willing to share insights of user-based feedback is critical in product development as well. Next, I wanted to turn into a very important principle and concept as it applies to how products diffuse through markets. And this is a learning that comes from a gentleman named Jeffrey Moore. He's written a famous book called Crossing the Chasm. And essentially what the learning is that products diffuse through markets in phases. And it is important to recognize that your first few customers may not be the customers that you have when you are experiencing growth, or what's called product market fit phase 2. For your entry customers or for your MVP customers, important to look for innovators and early adopters who share very different attributes than your phase 2 or early majority customers. And for that, I wanted to go to the next slide, which kind of shows you what's known as the S-curve. And the main point that I wanted to share here is when you do your targeting and segmentations, it is important in your market research to identify companies or individuals within those companies that have a innovator's DNA. They are generally risk takers. They are not afraid to try and fail, but they also move on quickly. And you want to generally look out for those early adopters as you make plans to launch your product. The next set of customers are early adopters. They're typically also willing to take a risk, but they're more careful than your first segment. But they're also opinion leaders, and their opinion matters a lot because it will drive your next scale-up phase. So the important point to remember for startups and entrepreneurs is when you get to early adopters, it's important to launch your first MVP, get the feedback from the opinion leaders, and use that to secure your majority customers, iterate quickly, and get to phase 2. Next, I'd like to talk about segmentation. This is another very critical aspect of marketing or identifying a group of customers that are distinct in their patterns, whether it is buying behavior, size. Sometimes customers are segmented by needs. So it is important to spend time on this aspect of your market planning. And it's typically a combination of market research, analytical, and quantitative reasoning to be able to take a very, very big market and segment it down to very distant groups of customers that are most relevant to not only your product, but also your business model, your company DNA, and value proposition. And again, as I said earlier, it's important to make sure that you're selecting customers that have expressed a willingness to buy. A critical component of the segmentation or the marketing exercise is market sizing. It involves a very methodical narrowing down and quantification of how big is your total available market, how accessible is it, which is typically how serviceable that market is. So SAM stands for serviceable available market. And then how obtainable. And how obtainable is typically what you're targeting, because not only are these paying customers, but they're also customers where you think you can win and establish what's called a customer lifetime value, have long time paying customers. Next, we move to another very critical component of product market fit, i.e. a business model. And what I wanted to show you here is 4 pillars that are critical to what a business model is for your company. And those 4 components are, first and foremost, the value proposition. This is typically articulated as a product or a service that allows a customer to do something more effectively, more conveniently, and more cheaply, what they've been trying to do. Resources are mostly internal to your firm, which are your team, your technology, your facilities, brand, cash, etc., that are required to deliver that value proposition to the customer. Profit formula is all about how you're going to make money and optimize your costs. And processes are just as important, because this is all about a startup and ways of working together as a team, so you can deliver that value proposition consistently to your customers. And the combination of these four and how well you kind of oil that engine of your company is what's known as a business model. Next is a template. I wanted to offer, and I'm sure a lot of you are aware of this tool. This is made available through iCorps and several other resources, but it consists of 9 building blocks that are critical in terms of a shared exercise by a founder and his or her team, so that as you articulate these 9 building blocks, it's very clearly understood by the founder and his or her colleagues on what your business model is. We move on next to what is a value proposition, and there are 3 critical elements that are needed to arrive at a very relevant and effective value proposition. Some companies spend months to get to that very, very clear statement that's backed by significant customer research and validation. And the intersection of customer needs and how well they're met, your company's strengths and your product's strengths, as well as the critical component, which is the red part of the Venn diagram, where competitors cannot meet that value proposition or that customer need, is where your sweet spot for value proposition is. And for 2 very relatable examples, I wanted to cite Costco and Instapot. For those who've been customers of either of those companies, know what they offer. And I'll take questions when we kind of get to that section in a few. The value proposition exercise results in a very clear articulated statement, and I wanted to offer you a template that helps you walk through. Once you have your target customer, it's addressed to that persona who has a particular need that's clearly articulated with your name, the frame of reference, clear benefits of what that product offers, the point of differentiation, why your company is unique at delivering that value proposition, and support, which is all about credibility, because only you and only you can deliver that promise and no other competitor. I think this is one of the last couple of slides. What I wanted to share with you is the importance of the process as you get to market, which involves segmentation. We talked about assessing your market through sizing it through customer discovery, going through the decision-making process if it's worth winning or not, and being very clear about the assumptions you're making as you formulate your product hypothesis. Making sure you're clear about who your competitors are and how are you going to outcompete them or outperform them. And then finally, activating the market by creating a pull-through. And we'll talk a little bit more about this when we have a business basics session, but I wanted to offer this visual to sort of synthesize the step-by-step process you need to take to create your marketing plan to get to that product market fit. And in conclusion, I wanted to sum up that to get to product market fit, it's important to identify a problem that's worth solving and to make sure that it's big enough to solve and you have customers that are willing to pay for it. Get to a minimal viable product fast. Getting very clear about the business model, adopting a mindset of continuous improvement and iteration, and repeating that loop or that cycle multiple times till you achieve that milestone. Some more resources to follow up in case you're curious about where some of these ideas came from. There's a lot more than what fits on this page, but I wanted to offer a book named Competing Against Luck. It's all about the job to be done theory, the famous Eric Ries, the lean startup, and Steve Blank, who's another entrepreneurial resource, and a couple of other sites of A16Z and BrainMates that you may find useful as you try to learn more about product market fit. And with that, I wanted to open it up to questions.
Just a reminder for all that are UACI clients, this is just a quick list of all the support that we offer through UACI and you know, I wanted to give you a good example of you know, everything that we have to offer here at UACI and so many people available to help you with specific needs. So remember, if you're working on something and you need some assistance, you know, please reach out to any of us on the team and we can help direct you to that. Next slide, Safali. And then just if you are here as, you know, solely as part of the SBIR STTR program, thank you for joining us. And just a quick reminder, as you're working on your applications, you can reach out to Sonia and I with questions and support. And we'd happy to help provide anything we can to get you through to those last submissions and any discussion, review, resources that you might need. Please don't hesitate to reach out to us.